So in this video, I will talk about how I intentionally relapsed from CFS again and again and again and again and again, only to see if I can recover faster. So let me tell you about it. In the year 2020 and 2021, it's almost 5 years ago, I felt pretty good. And I thought it was time for me to share my tools, the things that I discovered. And so I made a recovery program. It was a donation-based recovery program where I shared a lot of the tools, habits, and exercises that I did that helped me feel good. But in order to know which of the exercises actually helped and which ones didn't really help, I had a dilemma, and I had to discover which one it actually was. So I purposely made myself ill, and I did that by reversing all the tools that I had learned. So when I was working on the recovery program, I started to do it in a very stressful way, on purpose. And I actually liked it. I liked pushing myself that way. And within a week, I developed fatigue. And within 3 weeks, I had a full-blown crash. A really difficult crash, and it took me like 4 days to get out of it. And then I knew, okay, now I have to reverse this and have to implement the habits. And that was actually pretty difficult at that moment because there's a part of me that didn't want to do it. It took me 3 weeks to become symptom-free again. So 3 weeks for a full-blown relapse and 3 weeks to recover. And that made me think like, this could probably go faster. Because what if it wasn't the habits, like calming down the nervous system, allowing a good rhythm, being gentle with yourself? What if there was something else, like a deeper emotional layer that is being triggered by those things? So I tried to relapse faster and faster. And then when I moved away from the place where I lived, where I was ill for all those years, I moved into a community. And that was pretty stressful as well. And I developed symptoms as a consequence. So I knew there was something else. There was like an emotional trigger in those moments. So I started to engage myself in situations that would trigger these emotions. And I was just meditating on this. Like, how can I feel, for example, extremely afraid or extremely angry or extremely ashamed? And then at a certain moment, I had an instant relapse just by triggering myself into an emotional state. That's, of course, not so nice. And after some practice, I managed to have as well an instant recovery. And that's what I call a release. So with a release, you process the underlying emotion that the brain perceives as a danger and that creates those symptoms. And then after that, the symptoms just disappear. And that's funny, right? Because those symptoms are basically deceptions. Plus, if you phrase it this way, then chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, long COVID, all these illnesses, they are not really illnesses. They are symptoms, and they can be very strong symptoms or pretty severe, pretty chronic, but it doesn't have to be chronic when you move all inside of these emotions and really process it and cry as best as you can. So my motto in these days was to always make sure that I get a symptom by pushing myself emotionally, by exposing myself to a trigger, or by just visualizing stuff, and to then cry. A few tears a day will keep the doctor away. And that was my motto. And I started laughing about these symptoms. Come on, is this all you've got? And these emotions, the deeper I got into my body, the more extreme, painful these emotions became. But I didn't really care anymore. Give me more. I want it. And at times, I couldn't manage to release it. And I felt stupid. I felt like it's impossible because these symptoms do whatever they can to make you feel that there's something terribly wrong with you and that you can't recover today or tomorrow or in the next few weeks. That's how they make you feel as well. In the first relapse, the intentional relapse that I had, I got back at square one. I didn't have any confidence, so I really had to push myself into doing those habits. And then after that, I really had to push myself into feeling these emotions. And that's pretty difficult in the beginning because you're so trained to push these emotions away. Every year or every day of my life, there were emotions, and I just pushed them away. And the message was, I'll come back to that another time. And then when you have a chronic illness, that's the moment then you have to deal with it. So I was already coaching people, and I started practicing this on clients. So in the beginning, I was still pretty silent about it. And within a week, I managed to trigger a client from having no symptoms to symptoms, and then to let him cry and have a release. And I started perfecting that. Every day of my life, this was my obsession. And it became easier. And what I've learned is that as long as you have a symptom, let it be fatigue or a migraine, depersonalization, depression, vertigo, chronic pain, a headache, or a grogginess, then you still are not connecting with the underlying emotion. And the symptom does whatever it can to make you distract from these emotions. Therefore, you can find these symptoms everywhere in your body except for the place where you process these emotions, which is in front of your body. And therefore, these symptoms, I really have to emphasize this, they deceive you a lot. Because the first time when I connected with the emotion of fear after suppressing it in my body for over 20 years, I was at that day extremely tired and exhausted. But then when I really felt that fear through, I had to cry, I had to shake, and I was really enjoying it after a while to feel those emotions because I knew that this was the key to get better. Then after that, I didn't need sleep anymore. So from being completely exhausted, crying a few minutes, to not needing sleep for 1 or 2 nights. That's what is possible. Suddenly a burst of energy is available. So who is really tired, Is it real? Or is it just a deception created by the limbic system, as how Dr. Sarno is describing it? A more recent example, I was this week feeling a little bit tired. Like in the evening, I felt like it's time to go to bed. Didn't want to do more stuff. I canceled a few plans. And then yesterday morning, I was like, okay, there's probably something here. So immediately after waking up, I sat outside. I became present. I connected with my body and myself. And then I started crying, just 1 minute. And then last night, I didn't have to sleep. I'm feeling so energetic, so I missed an entire night of sleep. And I didn't need it. But yesterday morning, I woke up groggy and a little bit tired. So all of these symptoms, they make you completely obsess about it and think that there is something wrong with you. And that's exactly the purpose. That's what mind-body symptoms are doing. But in the end, it's just a deception. Have you experienced already a release? Or are you afraid to dive into your emotional body? Because that's possible as well. Because sometimes it can really be overwhelming. Imagine, for example, when you stumble upon self-hatred, like the feeling that you would like to kill yourself. That's not easy, but that's just an emotion. It's just an emotion, and emotions are visitors passing through. They just want to be felt, acknowledged, make you cry a little bit, or maybe shaking, burping, vomiting, etc. And then after that, it's gone. Symptoms are gone, the emotions are gone, and you can continue with your life. And therefore, it's not about becoming symptom free for the rest of your life. It's about connecting with yourself every day, just a little bit more, especially in the mornings, because at night, usually the unconscious mind is open and then you can feel groggy or symptomatic in the morning. So, in the beginning of the day, to make sure that you have a better day, take a moment to actually feel how you're feeling. Become present, don't distract. Breathe through your body. And chances are that you, at this moment, can't really connect with your emotions because it takes practice. Therefore, we have a lot of preparation work in the program. And sometimes you also need some safety first. Therefore, the habits that I tried in the beginning with the first intentional relapse, they are very important because they give you that initial safety so that you can dive into your body and emotions later on. So I hope this helps. Write in the comment what you think of this, and I wish you a beautiful healing journey.